Welcome to the You Go and Get It Girl podcast, a platform engineered to inspire girls and women of all ages to follow in the footsteps of high-achieving women in business, entertainment, and sports. A living reminder that you can't stop a go-getter. Go-getter, noun, defined as an aggressively enterprising person. A go-getter knows they can have any life you want. You can too, but you have to take it. You have to go and get it. We hope to help you do just that. Here is your host, Kurt Richardson.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the You Go and Get It Girl podcast. I am joined by the CEO of the Richardson household, Angela Richardson, our student from Winston-Salem, Joy Shipman, who has class today. She's just making it work for us. And then our special guest is Cally Beltz, who works within the Memphis Grizzlies and Memphis Hustle organization as an athletic trainer. And you guys won't know this the way it works out, but I literally just interviewed like one of her colleagues like 2 days ago. But the way this will work, this will come out a couple weeks after hers. But just in meeting Lauren, Miss Lowe, she was like halfway through, she was like, "Hey, you gotta interview my friend Cally too." So you guys are like a random intervention into my life. So I didn't know Lauren, but everyone kept telling me you got to interview her. And within a couple minutes of meeting her, she's like, "Oh, well, there's more of me. You got to meet Cally Beltz." Thank you for jumping on with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
So I want to jump right in and just figure this out. So obviously you've had several jobs within the NBA and the G League and stuff, but I want to go all the way back. Cally Beltz is growing up. Are you an athlete? Do you know you want to be a trainer? Like, how in the hell does this even start for you?
All right, so
one of the coolest jobs in the world.
Way back in the day. So when I was growing up, I just played basketball, but I was always around sports. All my friends were athletes, all of that sort of thing. Came from a really small town, so like playing sports in college was not a thing that you did at all. It was like kind of a dream, and so didn't think that wasn't the route that I was about to go. But I knew that I wanted to do something in the medical field when I went to college. Had no idea what an athletic trainer was. I did not have one at my high school because it was such a small town. And so I went to school. My advisor, he was like, "Yeah, you should take this kinesiology class. It'll just help you figure out what you want to do." And so I did, and I discovered athletic training. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. You can do something in the medical field and be involved in sports. I had no idea like the hours that came along with it and, you know, all of that stuff. But so I loved it. I applied for the program. I got in right away. And then that's when I met Lauren. We were in the same program at UW Milwaukee. And then I just kind of did my rotation at high schools and everything. And I just felt like I wanted to do a little bit more. And so I was thinking about my internship, which was our last semester of our program. It was like, at the time, it's changed now. At the time, it was a 4-year program. And then your internship could either be a semester or a full year, whatever you wanted. But I was thinking ahead and I was like, I really want to do an internship with the Milwaukee Bucks. How the heck do I do that? And so I went to my clinical director and I was like, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? Like, it's a couple years down the line, but I just want to make sure I'm setting myself up for when that time comes. Like, I could easily just step into the role." I didn't know if there was like a GPA requirement or whatever type of requirements they needed. I wanted to make sure I had it all in line before we got there. So in the most professional way and politically correct way possible, he told me, like, you should really find something else that's a bit more attainable. Mm-hmm. They've never had females before. So, I would recommend doing something else. And I was like, "Oh, okay, have a good day." I left. And so at the time, I was already working with the Milwaukee Bucks. I was doing like on the game entertainment side, just a fun college job, like throwing t-shirts out, that sort of thing. And so I went to my supervisor there that night. We had a game. So I went there. I was heated. I was like, I'm going to figure this out. And so I went to my supervisor and told him what happened. And I was like, "Is there any way that you could talk with that athletic trainer for me? Like, even if I could just sit down and talk with him, pick his brain a little bit, shadow, whatever he would be open to, I am really trying to make this work. So the end of the game comes, he hands me a business card with at the time, the athletic trainer, Mark Boff, his phone number written on the back of it, and was like, yeah, I talked with him. He's all about it. Just shoot him a text and he'll like figure it out. I was like, wait, really? Wasn't expecting it to be so fast. And so literally the next day, I texted him right away. I was like, hi, like this like very shy young college girl. It's like, hey, like, let me know what I can do. And then literally the next day I was in for a practice, and I didn't leave for, I think it was like 2 or 2.5 years later. And it was the best experience I ever had. And at the time in the NBA, this was like right before, I was kind of before this podcast, I was doing my research on what year I actually started. This was, I want to say April of 2011. So right before the lockout season, way long time ago. And like at the time in the NBA, you did not have this amount of staff that you have now. It was one head athletic trainer, an assistant, one strength coach, and one equipment manager. Like they just took care of everything. And so I was very fortunate to get a lot of really good experience. Now I feel like interns, you fill up the Gatorade coolers, you don't really get that hands-on. And so I came in at the perfect time and got that experience, and then was like, wow, this is actually something I can do. So then that was my goal after that, to just like, I'm going to figure out how to get to the NBA, and here I am.
Now, you glossed over one thing that we got to make sure it's clear for everybody.
Yeah.
You and Lo were the first female interns in the athletic
training,
which is wild to me, because when she told me that in 2011, I'm thinking like, there's no way that 2011 is like 10 minutes ago. There was no women, and like,
no. So when I was getting started, obviously, like I figured my way into the system myself. But I was there first, and the way the training room was set up at the time, it's not the same facilities as it is now. Thank goodness, because that was just really bad. And so the way the training room was set up was like, it was all very open into the locker room, everything. And so they were like, oh, I guess we should probably put up some doors, or just like they fixed little things, those like swinging half doors that are in like an old cafe or something. They put those up going into the locker room, and like little things that were helpful for having a female around. But then they were like, yeah, we actually should have had this the whole time. It doesn't matter if you have a female around. And nobody treated me any different. It was as if like this was a very common thing. And so then I brought Lauren that next year for her internship, because she ended up graduating a semester ahead of me. And then, yeah, it was just us two women just paving ways.
What I think is so cool about that is organizationally, there's so many times where the organization thinks it's a bigger deal than it's going to end up being. Like, oh, what do we do? There's going to be women in here, and there's men, and it's so interesting because it's still that way. I don't know much about your world in the NBA, but in the NFL or even college. So like here at Michigan State, forever, everyone thought our head athletic trainer, Sally, was the head, but she wasn't. She just got the job like 10 minutes ago, a couple of years ago. She was there 30 years. And part of that is organizationally, people thought there would be this resistance, but the cream rises to the top. You're working with world-class athletes. If you can do the job and do it well, no one cares. And so I love that that was part of your story.
Right, for sure.
Kurt, another thing, let's not gloss over the fact that somebody told her that she should find something else, and she didn't take that as the final answer, because I think a lot of girls that are listening to this podcast, they're intimidated, right? Somebody told you no, and you were like, yeah, that's not going to work for me.
Not only someone told you no, the person who's supposed to tell you what to do next told you no.
Yeah. To even like take it one step further from that, I even had to do like his required clinical rotations on top, like what I was doing with Milwaukee, the Bucks, did not count towards my school. Like I finally got him to accept it for my actual internship hours. But throughout the 2 years that I was there, I was still doing my rotations at my high schools, doing all the classes, what he needed me to do, what he approved. And that stuff was kind of just all on my own. So it was like a lot to really make that work. And the lack of support and wanting somebody to really win and like go after their dreams. It's a little frustrating, you know?
For sure. I think this is interesting to have Joy on this one. Joy is potentially going to break into sports. She goes to all this stuff. What are you thinking, like, as far as your journey or parallels or questions that would, you know, someone that's like you, Joy is a junior, I believe, right now at Winston-Salem. Is that correct? So you're halfway through school. What comes to your mind? What's with Cally's story?
I would definitely say just kind of taking note of the fact that I'm coming into, like, next year I'll have to do my internship. So not necessarily taking no for an answer, kind of being able to find an alternative route, because we do have, being that I am from Charlotte, there are a lot of sports teams that I could possibly work with, or even here in Winston, Wake Forest is down the street. So it's like if something doesn't come up here, or if an advisor says no, in a sense, just like, and it's something that I want to do, don't take no for an answer. Like, don't get down on myself about it, in a sense, because there's always somebody that's going to support you in the end.
Now, so Cally, if I'm hearing your story right, you got way out in front of like, hey, I got to do this internship. I'm going to work early to make sure I'm the obvious choice. Have you started doing that, Joy? Are you like trying to?
Yeah, I've definitely put myself out there, like going to Atlanta. I worked the March Madness tournament in Greensboro, the women's. So just pretty much putting my face out there so where people recognize my name, if it does come across their desk, and just trying to connect with as many people, and then doing my end as a student to make sure that my GPA is good and I have all the requirements that I need.
Gotcha. Now, were you an NBA fan growing up?
I was always a Lakers fan, actually. Only reason is I think my older cousin, who like I kind of looked up to him, he loved the Lakers. So I was like, oh, I like gotta like the Lakers to be cool, so he'll like me.
That's funny. So we touched on it a little bit, but most people don't know, because people think most people's frame of reference for athletic training is the high school sport. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those mm-hmm. are women roles, but you've broke through in the upper echelon. You're, you know, even with the G League, you're talking 1 of 64. Like, it's just a small world you're living in. Mm-hmm. As you get into athletic training, is there a moment where you realize like, oh, all the head jobs are dudes? Like, there's not a lot of women. And then what's that thought process? I know you're a go-getter and you have ambition.
Yeah.
What happens when you have that moment where like, wait a second, no one looks like me that has the head job?
You know, when I first started, after my internship with Milwaukee, and then I went to grad school at Marquette, and I was still trying to do that MBA role. I went a year and worked at an NAI school with the 2 basketballs. My first like real job in the league was with the Windy City Bulls, Chicago Bulls G League team. So then that's when I really started networking with people in the league and the NBA, G League, all of that. And I really started to notice was like, wait, there's only 2 other females right now. And I'm like, well, okay, well maybe the NBA is different. I'm like, wait, there was even less at the time than now. And it was just more like us couple of females would get together and talk. And I was like, yeah, my one really good friend, Heather Mao, she's the assistant athletic trainer with the Dallas Mavs right now. And her goal was to be like the first Hawaiian head, female athletic trainer in the league. Or just even first Hawaiian in the league in general. And so it was just like, who's going to break through first? And a couple of my friends, Jana Austin and then Bree Jefferson, one is with New Orleans Pelicans, the other is with the Detroit Pistons. They were kind of the first African-American females to be in the league too. And so it's like seeing people that I genuinely know and like, you know, great people, it's like this is well deserved. Seeing them kind of break through gives me that more motivation to like, you know, I want to be at their level. And they like talk to the young girls around and stuff of, hey, you can do it too. And I don't know, just seeing how they motivate other females. And it's like, I want to be part of that. And so that helps motivate me.
I love it. Lauren told us a great story about JJ Redick's ointment when he got traded there. She had to
oh my gosh.
So many people looking like, oh, wow, you work with the best athletes in the world. It's so glamorous. Have you had that moment too where someone's really testing you? So many women, I think, and really actually young people, I want to take it just broader, get blindsided by those things that they don't realize are a test, or even if they're not a test, it's an opportunity to show that you're fully committed. Mm-hmm. I talk on almost every one of these podcasts. Something that changed my life is a very powerful person in the business asked a group of us to go get coffee, and all my boys had too much pride to do it. And I'm like, I'll go get, like, I'm a kid from the project. I don't care about going to get coffee.
Right.
And that thing let me kind of meet him and then introduce, and it just changed that. I mean, it's one of the most consequential things that happened in my life. Do you got like your story of you get sent on a goose chase?
I've had, I think during my internship, there was some crazy goose chases. I think it was either Zaza Pachulia or Carlos Delfino. I forget which one. During practice, they wanted like this one special smoothie from this one special spot in Milwaukee. And it was like, I think they just made this up, but it's like, yep, I got it. No worries. Like, I'm going to like kill this. And I could not find this. I really think it was like a joke with, let's see if she actually comes back with something. But I wouldn't, I don't know if I've gotten like tested in more of like a negative way. Like I've been around some pretty good organizations where it was like more of like maybe it's just my personality too, more of like a joking, like kind of camaraderie, if that makes sense.
It does. I just want people to have their antennas up. Just go do the thing. When you're early on, what else do you have to offer, honestly?
Well, that was
pride gets in the way.
What I learned as an intern underneath the two athletic trainers at the Bucks at the time was like the head athletic trainer always said, you're never too good to make an ice bag. And then the assistant Scott Barthelme was always like, be seen and not heard. Whatever you're asked to do, just do. Always remember every day is an interview, and like you never know who's watching, which is so true to this day, even around like the NBA organizations. I would say the better organizations, like they know the interns, they know the custodian staff, they know everybody, and they're always watching and like seeing how people move and observing people and how they interact with others. And even if it's just like a normal day, or like I'll run into our GM Zach Kleiman at the coffee shop down the street, and it's like, hey, like if I was acting very unprofessional, he's gonna look at me in a different light, even though we're not in the arena setting. But like every day is just, you got to be aware. And those little meetings that you have with people with, hey, let me just meet him, and you never know where it goes. The sports world is so small. And then once you get into like the specific sports, the NFL, the NBA, MLB, whatever it is, it gets even smaller than too. And everybody knows everybody. Some of my coworkers were just talking about, what is that called? It's like five people to the what I'm talking about, whatever. Yeah. So we were just talking about that. I was like, everybody, you just take 5 people and you can meet anybody in the world. And then so we were playing. It was like, no, that's not true. And they like, it was debunked. It was like, yeah, like that's so true. Like you never know who you're gonna meet or who knows who.
Yeah, and our circle of friends, our version of that is how many calls to the president. So regardless who the president is, like one of my buddies, Caleb Thornhill, he's probably at any time he has to make 2 phone calls for someone to get on the phone, maybe less, because one of his bosses right now is probably the wealthiest owner in professional sports, one of them.
That's too funny.
And it's just like, yeah, and the world is small. Equipment management and AT especially, because you're going to deal with so many high school guys or college guys, and you'll need their medical background and past and stuff. So those relationships are interesting. I'm wondering, as you're going through this, like you're in an alpha male sport, one of the things, you don't know this about me, but I have a 26-year-old daughter and I have 4-year-old twins. So like,
oh goodness,
I've been doing this girl dad thing a long time. I always worry about them. I'm hard on people. My wife is all, like 10 times a week. She'll be like, hey, turn that thing down. Like, that's just me, our relationship, not even the girls. Sometimes when you're in these elite organizations, in elite positions, communication happens fast and sometimes it's harsh. When you get your feelings hurt, how have you developed that thick skin? Or sometimes that blindsides people, and it's not personal, and it's actually usually in the moment. It's not like, oh, I did this to hurt Cally's feelings. It's like, hey, we got shit we got to get done, and I don't have time for all the fluff. Like, have you had those moments?
I've actually had some really tough moments. I worked with it was a rough couple of years with an organization, and me and the head coach, we butted heads a lot. There was a lot of confrontation, and I built some really tough skin with that. I think every day I probably went home just like, what am I doing with my life? This is not, I'm not happy, and now looking back on it, I've learned so many lessons and really have grown from that. And where I don't think anybody could say something to me like today. I shouldn't say that because I don't want to test anybody, but say something to me that I could go away and be like, wow, that really hurt my feelings. I think I've been around this long enough too to understand that it's work, and then there's also your personal, and they overlap being in the league, probably with whatever professional sport organization that you're working with, because you're with those people so often. That's like they are your family. But it takes like a really good relationship with them to know that separation of this is work. Like he said something, he was upset about something, he said it in this type of tone, like, no, it was just, there's urgency with that. It's no big deal. I'm just going to do it, go on about my day. I think that is what a lot of the players appreciate about me too, is like they can say whatever. I mean, in a respectful way, obviously not getting disrespectful, but they can say whatever, and it just goes in one ear and out the other, because I understand that emotions are high with sports and everything, and there's highs and lows of the season and all of that. But it's like, for me, it's really important that I keep it consistent, and my attitude and my energy is consistent, because sometimes that's a light for people to come into the training room and just like, hey, like she's having a good day today. Like, I'm going to try to have a good day. And like, it kind of just like the energy just feeds off of each other.
I love it. Joy, you're going to have to run in a second. Any questions you have or things you're thinking? We got Cally Beltz.
I was going to ask kind of a similar question of like, have you ever had like an aha moment, if that makes sense? Like, I'm trying to figure out what I'm trying, like, I'm trying to get the words.
Like, this is what I want to be doing.
Yeah, because like I feel like a lot of times, especially like in the sports world, there's so much that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, when do you feel like was that moment? It's like, okay, this is really like what I want to be doing, what I should be doing. If that makes sense.
I would say I have that like small aha moments often, which keep me going on a daily basis. Sometimes it's just the grind of being an athletic trainer can be grueling, and it's like, what am I doing with my life? But those little, like the thank yous from the athletes, or like the big appreciation moments of, wow, like that really made my day today. Those things keep me going. But I would say when I was with Windy City, with the Bulls G League team, I had an athlete, Tyler Harris, and he was kind of like I don't want to say like my project, but we were really working on different things with his body of how to help him improve. Obviously, if he improves it makes us look good because we did a great job, but like more so to help him with his career and, let him do what he wants to do, keep playing basketball to help support his family. And at the end of the season, every day we put in crazy work. And at the end of the season, it was just like, hey, Cally, like, I know you've been wanting, I think it was either an Apple Watch or some AirPods. It's like, here you go, like, gave that to me for a gift. And then it's like, thank you so much for everything you did. And I think that was like the first big, like, oh, this is really what I'm trying to do, is like a season long experience. And at the end of it was, wow, like he really appreciated all that work we did every single day. Like, this is why I want to be at this level.
Love it. So before Joy goes, I have a question. When you've got people that are now reaching out to you, they need help getting in, or they're looking for like the insight. What are one or two things that Joy needs to have her head on a swivel for? Like, hey, you've got to be this is the one of the 2 or 3 big rocks that matters the most when you're interviewing or finding or.
I think what you're already doing with getting your name out there is great. I wish I did that a little bit sooner. So great job with that. Just keep doing that consistently, and then do it in a professional way. People at this level, they're busy, and so they don't have time for, or they won't give you the time of day if you're more naggy or, hey, I want to meet you, and add some context to it. Do it in a professional way, and you will find people that even if they don't have a position for you, they will sit down and at least have a conversation, or ask them, hey, if you're in the same city, can I take you for coffee? Or just getting on the phone to chat with them. I would recommend Zoom, because then they have that facial, they actually see you. And then when they see you next time, they're going to recognize your face versus just a name. But just pick people's brains and just do it in a professional way. And when there is a job that comes open, like if you left an impression on them, they will remember your name. I've seen it happen not only with myself, but with other people around the league, who's like, hey, I remember that name on that resume that one time, look them up. And like, oh yeah, they said this, or yeah, like it was a really great conversation with them. We should have them in for an interview. And so it's really all about who you know.
I love it. I appreciate it. So we spent a lot of time talking about what you do. Let's talk about who she is, wife.
So I actually want to take a step back for a minute, because one thing that we hone on is women have a superpower, and it's intuition. It's intuition. Every woman has it, and it starts at a young age, whether you listen to it or not. But Cally, I think you listened to it. Like when somebody told you no, your intuition stepped in, right? So how over the years have you listened to or used your intuition to get you where you are today?
I think it's like, especially in athletic training, you have to make some difficult decisions, and knowing that some people are not going to be happy about it. And so I think over the years, I've had to use that gut feeling of, this just isn't a good situation for the athlete. Obviously, the athlete's healthcare is our number one priority, but it's like looking at the bigger picture of, he can play in this game on a Monday, but we also have 3 other games this week that are a little bit more important for our playoff run and whatever the bigger picture is. And so listening to my gut feeling with that, and like you said, I feel like 99.9% of the time it is correct at the end of the day, with whatever decision I go with. And so I think that happens quite often in my role. I would say just like intuitions with injuries of, this just isn't adding up, right? Let's just get another opinion with somebody, because, this is your career. I think it helps too with some of the decisions that I make based on obviously my clinical experience, but more so like my gut is just telling me that there's something else. Where was I going with that? This is like one of those pause moments.
Yep, we'll clean it up.
What was I saying? My gut. Oh, okay, sorry. So what was I was saying, my like 99% of the time, like people appreciate the decisions that I'm making, even if they don't agree with them at the time, because they know deep down I care about the individual as a human being, not just a basketball player or just an athlete. And so I'm making my decision based on not just like my clinical experience, but like I really think this is what is best for you right now, and it's going to help you in your career in the long run.
I love it. And you, ATs, Joy, if you got to take off, we appreciate you. Thank you so much. ATs have a natural built-in conflict, which is no coach except somebody's injured, and athletes want to play. The best athletes do. And so you have to step in. And I think that goes back to having that thick skin. One of my great privileges in my life and our personal life is Angela, when her and I first started dating, long before we got married, she reported to the CEO of a big company, and he was a tougher guy. He's just what you would think of a CEO, very sharp communication. To watch her grow through that, I think is great. And I think that you get an accelerated version, and anyone interested in this career will get an accelerated version, because you've got alpha athletes that want to play, most of them, the best ones, and you got coaches that want them to play, and you have to step in. Do you recall the first couple of times where that was a conflict and you're like, put your foot down, like, no, this gentleman, this guy's got to sit it out?
Yeah, I actually have this crazy story. So when I was at the NAI level, which is not pro, but a coach is a coach. I had this athlete who he was suspended for a game for something that he did. So regardless, he wasn't going to play in this game, but he also had a concussion on top of it. So it was like the return to play protocol with a concussion. It's very black and white. It's not like, yeah, he could go. He could. It's like, no, he's still in the protocol. Like he's not playing. And so this coach literally had me cornered. It's like, no, you need to let him play this game or say he can play. So that way it's a suspension game. And then like, he's still not playing anyways. And I'm like, no, like regardless, like it cuts into the return to play. That comes down to my liability too. Like, no, I'm not doing that. But I have had situations with coaches where it's like, well, can he go or can't he go? And it's like, no, he can't go. Like you have 8 other players to pick from. I'm sorry, like I'm trying to do my best too. You know, I've had my experiences.
Well, so before Angela gets into this, so there's this motherly instinct in what you do too. Do you find yourself trying to protect guys from themselves?
I do. I actually have been told from more than a handful of athletes that they sometimes prefer, they've had female athletic trainers in college or wherever else they've been at. Sometimes they prefer having a female athletic trainer because they feel like the nurturing and the caring aspect, and just the overall like motherly instincts that they are missing because they're not at home with their moms. And so I do find that sometimes where I need to be like, wait a minute, I'm not their moms. I don't have it so much being at the pro level. So with some of the younger rookies, it's like a couple of our rookies, they were looking for apartments living, and we have somebody on staff that helps them and their families with all of that when they're new to the city. But he was showing me this list that she sent him, and he's like, I don't know any of these spots. Like they're a little bit too expensive for me. And I'm like, let me show you what I got when I was moving to the city. And like, he's like, well, where can I get furniture at? I'm like, okay, we're going to go furniture shopping. And like, let me show you where the grocery store is. Let me show you how to cook. That sort of stuff is fun to me. It kind of keeps it going. And it actually helps build the relationships too. Right. But I do, it's like, okay, hold on. Like they got to figure it out on their own. They're grown men. So.
Which brings us into the talk of women in really any industry, any high demand role. And there's a stigma among women that is like, they can't possibly have kids and be a high performing person that we need to rely on. So I'm not saying you please don't disclose if you don't want to, like no, you're fine. You want kids or not, but how do you know, or what do you think triggers it's the right time for me to start a family or a woman to start a family in a high pressure job and one that's very competitive?
So I actually talk with my friends about this. Me and Heather with Dallas talk often because we're similar ages, both similar in our lives of, single, just like working our careers, but also we want a family and we want to be moms that someday, we're in no rush. It's like the right time, right person, that sort of thing. But it's like, okay, well, we are getting a little older. So what are we going to do? And we've talked about I don't think there's any other females in the league on the basketball ops side of things that have kids. I think there are females there and there are females that are married, but I don't think that they are moms and have children back home. And so that is kind of a new avenue that I want to try to figure out how to navigate myself whenever that day comes. Because I do want a family one day. And I also don't want to be that mom that watches her kids grow up via FaceTime too. But because you see so many males in the league that, you are the people, head coaches, GM, whoever it is, like they all have kids. Most of them have kids back home, but the mom is always at home taking care of the kids when, you're on the road traveling for 70% of the 8 months of the season. And so I don't know, like it's a weird goal of mine that I want to achieve whenever I can achieve it, which is like, it's not something that, this is what I want to do by this time. Like, it's kind of not attainable in that way, but I want to figure out how to make that work when that time comes, to show other women and other young women that like you can do this and have a family. It's not one or the other. It may be difficult, but it's certainly doable in the right organization with the right people. I think the Memphis Grizzlies, regardless of how long I'm going to be around this organization, there's such wonderful people and it's very family oriented. And I felt like if my time were now to have a family, it would be no problem. Like I would be very well supported and like it would be very understood. It would be a great situation. But I do know some organizations, it would be, well, if you can't go to work, then we got to figure something else out, you know, which is unfortunate, but I hope that changes throughout the years.
And I just want to correct you on one thing. It's not a weird goal. It's a goal.
Yeah.
You can have whatever goal you want. It's not weird to have a family and be a mom. So
I love it.
I make a great aunt, so you know, a mom.
When I seen your pictures, I was like, all right. Well, we appreciate your time, obviously. I want to end with just this, like somebody starting and they're in the blues. It's like, I don't see this pathway to the pros. I don't see this pathway to my fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to reverse out. Like, what other things, like, hey, if you're good at this, you could also be good at these other avenues. Like, do you see the parallels between your other peers in the organizations? Like, hey, these type of people could also do well at this. Because I think it probably happens less in AT because of how specialized it is and you got to have the clinical. But a lot of times with young people, and the whole goal of this podcast is to demystify what the pathway to high achievement looks like for young girls and women. If you were doing something else and you want to do in sports, what do you think translates?
You know, it's actually the opposite of what you said. I think, my opinion of
okay.
You know, being an AT is very specialized, but I think ATs are so good at they're organized. They know how to handle difficult situations. Just like the different skills that come along with being a good AT can be easily transferred over to a different part of sports. So I forget the actual title of the role. We have two individuals who kind of help with player, family, just extra activities, that sort of stuff. Whatever the players or families need, she handles it, or both of them are females too. They handle it. Hey, you know, my room is too dark, too light at home and I can't sleep. Oh, no worries. I'm going to get you some blackout curtains, like that sort of stuff. And the one lady that we just hired the middle of last season, she was actually a PT prior. Okay. And she came over and is crushing the job. But I think it's also because, you know, like her different skill set from being a PT, just carry over, and she understands what players need from not just, you know, a normal human standpoint of, hey, you just moved here. Okay, I'm going to get you some kitchen stuff, furniture, all of that stuff. It's more of like, they understand when they go through injuries, you know, what it takes during a season. They need a chef, all of these other little things that make her just so great at her job. And I think like PR would be a great avenue if you're into, you know, writing and that sort of thing. That's not my forte at all. But even just like social media, I think that would be a great avenue for some people to get into. I know a couple of my friends got involved in sports. They were more on like the game op side of things and like fan entertainment. And it just wasn't really filling their glass up. And so they got involved in the social media side of it and they loved it. It was like, hey, I'm already doing this for myself anyways. Like I can make money from this could be my career. And so I think that's a lot of a big avenue that people kind of gloss over to TikTok. Like there's people that work with the Grizzlies that are specifically just for TikTok and just for Twitter. And so I think, you know, if athletic training isn't the avenue that you want to go, there's a lot of different little avenues that you could go into, whether it's pro level, college level, even some very glorified high schools, I think probably have these different roles. And, you know, if you get into the right organization, sometimes they'll even make a role for you with whatever you're good at. And they really want to excel your like your pros and what you're great at, they'll make a role for you. It's all like, hey, these are my strengths and these are my weaknesses. So how can I exemplify my strengths? This is what I'm going to go with this organization with. Hey, this is what I'm really good at. Do you have something that, I could help your organization with in these ways? And you never know. I think a lot of jobs also aren't posted. And it's really about who with getting a foot in the door with, hey, we're going to have this position opening up. You should talk with this person. Like a lot of these people that get these great jobs, it's because of who they know. And like, they have inside intel on it. And it's not, well, I found this on Indeed or on LinkedIn, because a lot of jobs, they're just not posted anymore because they want great quality candidates. If you post something, sometimes I think organizations are deterred away from that because they get hundreds of thousands of candidates that are not qualified for the job, and it's like a lot to filter through.
Yeah, it's funny. One of the kids that I mentor, we may have him on if we do a guy version of this podcast, but he started in fan entertainment for the Los Angeles Rams, and then every time, because he had the internal email, anytime they needed volunteers for stuff, he went to every single thing for 2 years.
Really?
And they just made a job for him. Like they're just like, boom. And so he just sent me on LinkedIn the other day his Super Bowl ring. Right.
That's
this guy
awesome.
worked in fan entertainment for all of as soon as he could work, 16 on through. He started in parking. Then he went into like your old specialty, the t-shirt, fan entertainment, game zone stuff. And then he just started volunteering all the community involvement stuff. And he ended up on the front office staff and has a freaking Super Bowl ring from just your thing there. Somebody just found a role for him. Like, because he proved himself in a variety of ways. And obviously when he was there for whatever they needed. He wasn't there for him. So it was awesome. We appreciate your time though. I love your story. I love what's going on with both of you and Miss Lowe. I think it's a great opportunity for women we try to accentuate what are the female advantages, and you touched on it. To me, athletic training is one of those that if you can get great at that and break through and care and put the player first, there's a need that they have to want to be surrounded by people that know they have their best interests in mind. And then on the female side, what you've got to build up is those soft skills. Like you got to take care of the athlete above the teens. You can't bring attitude of like, oh, he attacked me personally. You got to understand the coach's conflict with the athlete's conflict with your role. And I think you've articulated this well for us. So we appreciate you, Cally Beltz.
Thank you so much, you guys. I really appreciate you guys taking your time, letting me speak, and hopefully this resonates with somebody out there.
It will. People are going to love this one. I think we've had a lot of the gals. I think maybe it's just, I think there's so many people that just see themselves getting in through your world. When I talk to most people, most young girls that I'm working with, and I got to stop. I got to figure out what the alternate term is, because these are Division I athletes at major programs. Like 6'7" volleyball lady is not a young girl, but to me she is. I'm in my 40s. But they naturally are kinesiology is an athlete. That's what I went to first, my first degree. So athletes are predispositioned towards that, but also I think so many women see themselves in either football ops that I meet with or in AT. So I love that we've got a couple perspectives on this with you and Lauren. I appreciate you taking your time to kind of give us some insights.
Thank you so much.
All right, awesome. Ladies, all the information is out there. We say you can't stop a go-getter. We hope that you like this episode. Hit like and subscribe. We'll have Cally's Instagram in here tagged into it. Don't be a weirdo, but if there's a genuine question you have about getting in, we'd love for you to connect with her. Part of the whole goal of this is to spotlight high-achieving women and create a pathway to connect. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you again soon. You Go and Get It Girl podcast, episode number 9.